Have you ever made conclusions about a certain situation? Something happens to you, or you perceive something or someone, and then you later discover that you are wrong. Okay? You later discover that actually your conclusions were not correct, that whatever you perceived was the opposite of what it really actually is. Well, good morning, it's Dr. Jacinta Mpani, and I thank you so much for tapping on this video. Thank you for subscribing if you have, and if you haven't, please subscribe for obvious reasons. Now, this week's motivation video is about perception. How to analyze what you perceive, how to really step back before you make conclusions so that you can deny situations and experiences your attention, which will empower you to choose how you feel. Because literally perceptions are the mothers of our feelings. Whatever you perceive will create how you feel. Now I'll tell you a story of what happened recently. I went to speak at the Earth Expo. I was the MC, the opening master of ceremony for the expo, and there was a lady in the audience who actually she was seated at the front, and she was a white lady, Caucasian lady, and I was speaking about Africa. I was telling them some stories about Africa. And she looked at me in this really angry-like way. Her face came off as though she's so angry or so irritated or so disgusted about what I was saying. And I just burst out and laughed at one time because I was like, oh my God, what's her problem? But, I went on with my talk and I just said, you know what, maybe she's having a bad day. I'm not going to be conclusive. It's really interesting that she's looking at me that way. But anyway, just let it go and continue with my talk. Now, if you're a speaker, you know how I felt. If you have this one person in the audience, right? And they are looking at you with this ugly look, or perceptive look, or pulling their eyes out or whatever, it can impede, it can affect, impact, influence the way you present. If you are not confident, it can really bring your energy down. Anyway, moving forward with the story, later on, I happened to be seated in a booth opposite hers. So I sat down and really looked at her and decided, let me just go and say hello. So I stood up and went to say hello, and only I got to realize that actually her face was filled with scars, and she told me her story that she had had many facial face surgeries as a result of an accident. So her lips were crooked, she had so many scars on her eyes, which literally gave her an angry look. And I was like, oh my God. There I was really perceiving this person as an angry person. I kind of almost concluded that she didn't like what I was talking about because I was speaking about Africa. And I was like, I almost concluded that, she's looking that way because I'm talking about Africa. I was sharing some childhood stories, and I really felt horrible. But in a way, I realized that most of the times, what we perceive is not the truth. This was a confirmation for me that next time I see someone looking at a certain way, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are diverting or, directing that anger or that perceived look towards you. I thought this lady was angry. Moreover, she had had many facial surgeries. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this story because I want to inspire you and let you know that whatever you perceive could be a lie. Your perceptions could be lies. They could be conclusions, definitions, or associations that literally do not reflect on the actual truth. So every time you perceive something, I implore you to step back and examine what you perceive or what you concluded to be the truth, and make sure that it's really the truth. And that means that you are present. That means that you take your time to come to conclusions. That means that you deduct your judgment as you experience life. You walk through life without judgment. And when you walk through life without judgment, it gives you an opportunity to explore events, people, and situations to their entirety. Because you're able to go to the end of a person or a situation and see what it really is, what it really means. Because sometimes a facial expression on its end, on its own, or someone saying some angry words, or a statement does not really reflect on what's going on in someone's inner world. It might be a snap. It might be that someone had a bad day. They might even be going on. They might be holding an ugly conversation in their mind, and you happen to be there when they are snapping, trying to either dwell into the negativity going on in their mind or trying to offload, and their actions have absolutely nothing to do with you. It's all their business. So this week, I want to inspire you to take time to perceive. And I want to remind you that our thoughts do not owe us. We don't owe them our attention. Our attention is precious, and we should hold back on giving attention to any thought that pops up in our consciousness. We should hold back in coming up with conclusions, because we overwork the brain by coming up with all these conclusions that end up being lies. So if we can step back, be present, and delay in making conclusions, and have faith that we can actually explore and experience, or someone to their entirety, or a moment to its entirety, we shall be able to discover the truth in things. Because at the end of the day, you really get to discover that the truth was just the truth. It had nothing to do with you, and it should not yield or manufacture negative feelings in you. Remember, perception is projection. What you have inside it is what you will perceive. So before you perceive anything, examine your own projections and find out if you're projecting a story inside your mind that does not necessarily reflect on what you're projecting it onto. For instance, find out if your conclusion is not based on a story that's already dwelling in your mind. Discover that the conclusions, explore things so that the conclusions you make about these experiences or things are really the truth about those things. Okay, so this was my short talk about perceptions and emotional freedom. I know this will help. If it appears complicated, or if I'm not clear or anything like that, please leave a comment below. Leave your comments, discuss with me. Tell me what more you would like me to talk about. I just wanted to share this because I know that our biggest problems lies in relationships. Once we master how to relate with other people, then we start achieving emotional freedom. And that begins with self-mastery, understanding how you think, how you make decisions, what prompts you to act, how you perceive things, and how you can be in control of your mind. Now, thanks once again for clicking on this video. Thanks for subscribing if you have. If you haven't, please do. In the interim, I'm sending you God's love and light, and have a great week ahead. Bye.